everyone, it's Laura, and today I'm here to talk to you about Under the Whispering Door. So this was the last of the 3 TJ Klune books that I physically own, and I ended up listening to the audiobook and do some immersion reading back in the beginning of August with this book. And I'll be honest, it was rough going at first. It took me a while to get into this book because this is a story of Wallace, and from the get-go, it's very clear that he's a very unlikable person, because for the first chapter, he is firing someone who is crying in his office, and the only thing he can think of is, why is she crying? When can this be over? I need to do other things. And when he dies and he sees that basically no one showed up to his funeral, he was upset and didn't understand why he wasn't more popular, and he was just a very deeply unlikable character. And as I've rediscovered my reading tastes and where they're at currently, I have found that I definitely prefer more likable main characters, especially when you're in their head. It's easier for me to have unlikable or characters with gray morals if they're side characters, but when you're in their head and they're justifying their actions, they need to be somewhat bearable and likable for me. So it was a tough go when we first started, and a Reaper comes to collect him from his funeral, and then he is brought to this kind of halfway house, tea house, where Hugo is basically going to be the ferryman and take him on his journey to the afterlife. And he basically has a week to make that transition, and I don't remember exactly how or why they claim that he just can't immediately go if he has unresolved business or not. It basically seems like, looking back on it, the point was for Wallace to figure out what the purpose of his life was and just make peace with everything. But I don't know from the Reaper's side what their justification was. So basically, it's a week spent in this tea house seeing some other passed on souls, and it's open to the public during the day. They can't see Wallace, so he's just basically a ghost in the corner, and you see the public and it functions like a normal business, and interacting with the Reaper, who is an employee of the tea house. I forget her name. I feel awful. I forget her name. And then Hugo, who is the one that he has to have conversations with that will help him make the transition. And then there is this mystical manager that everyone fears, that you don't know for most of the book who or what the manager is. And like I said, it was hard for me to get into at first, but then it really roped me in. And by the end of the book and his journey, I loved all the characters. The character arc that Wallace took, it was believable because he still felt like fundamentally the same person, but a lot shifted in him with the new perspective that he was given and the different interactions he had while at the tea house. And there are other characters that I don't want to spoil that are also at the tea house and that pass through the tea house that just change how Wallace views things. And as the reader, you feel like the character arc Wallace takes is well earned. And with anything, it's kind of hard to believe that so much change can happen in only a week. So there is a little suspension of disbelief with that, but it still meant a lot to me. And the backstories for some of the other characters that he runs into, I really don't want to spoil them for anybody, but they are touching. They are deeply sad and moving in different ways. I would recommend, if anyone has any issues with grief or loss, to look up trigger warnings for this book, because Wallace isn't the only one that's passed on that you learn about their death, and some of them are definitely hard to read. And I was definitely just all in by the end of the book, and the last few chapters I was crying, and I ended up picking up my phone at one point because I just couldn't believe the complete turnaround of opinion that I had on this book from the very beginning, where I wasn't sure if I should even continue, to the end where I was emotionally invested enough to actually be crying for the characters. And it wasn't just a little, my eyes got watery. It was like, it was crying.
Whew. This book, okay. That hit harder than I thought.
So I ended up giving this book 5 stars, and I am now curious, once I get more through my physical TBR, to explore more of TJ Klune's other books and see what else I might be interested in reading. I think there's like a wolf song, at least just by the title alone. I know nothing of the actual series. It didn't seem like something that would be interesting to me, but who knows, the plot, once I look into it more, might sound intriguing. I think there's one in the life of puppets or something. I haven't looked into what any of his other books are about, so I'll have to do that, because after this and House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea, I definitely would be interested in reading more from TJ Klune. So 5 stars, and yeah, without spoiling anything, I think that's all I have to say about this book. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!